starting with 1 million luck points. Chapter 116, It's late, I have to go back. Yes. The charming woman nodded repeatedly. The middle-aged man and the other man nodded one after another. Zhou Hao smiled bitterly. He did not expect that he would accidentally travel from the Huadong city to the Huanan city in a flash after testing the strength of the Golden Crow escape technique. The two places were thousands of kilometers apart. The charming woman noticed Zhou Hao's tone and expression and could not help but ask, "May I ask where you came from, sir?" Zhou Hao waved his hand and sighed. "I came from Huadong." "All right, it's not early. I have to go back." With that said, he waved his hand, and the blue water dragon's huge corpse instantly disappeared. "I hope to see you guys again." Swoosh. His figure suddenly disappeared. The three supernatural experts were dumbfounded. They only returned to their senses a few minutes after Zhou Hao disappeared. Did that senior just say that he was from Huadong City? Huadong City is 5 to 6,000 kilometers away from here. The middle-aged man's expression was solemn. "This matter cannot be made public." That senior almost instantly killed an overlord-level blue water dragon. Moreover, when he disappeared just now, I didn't even catch a trace of his shadow. His strength is simply shocking. At this point, he couldn't help but take a deep breath, and his eyes flashed as he said, "It's very possible that we encountered a peak level 9th grade supernatural expert." At the Yang Garden residence, Zhou Hao sat on the sofa comfortably and drank his beverage. There was still a pleasantly surprised expression on his face. The effect of the Golden Crow escape technique was simply extraordinary. The distance between the Huadong city and the Huanan city was thousands of kilometers. Before the cataclysm, even large passenger airlines took nearly 3 hours to travel between the two places. After the cataclysm, technology on Earth had developed rapidly, but even special aircraft required more than half an hour to arrive. As for him, it had only taken less than 3 minutes. Moreover, he had even finished off an overlord-level blue water dragon in the process. The time it took for him to truly travel was less than 10 seconds. The movement speed of the Golden Crow escape technique is already so miraculous. I wonder how abnormal the higher level 9-horn lightning snake movement will be. He muttered softly, his eyes flashing with anticipation. Although at this stage, with the remaining 30 million luck points, it was still somewhat difficult for him to obtain the 9-horn lightning snake movement. As long as he continued to accumulate luck, he would eventually obtain this higher level movement technique. Of course, at present, the Golden Crow escape technique could already completely satisfy his traveling needs. A gold mystery box that costs 1 million Heaven Dao coins is indeed awesome. Not only does it increase the cultivation technique's effects, but the cultivation technique and secret techniques are also ridiculously powerful. He felt somewhat emotional. Before opening the box, he had felt heartache, but after opening the box, he could only feel that it was totally worth it. Knock, knock. At this moment, there was a knock on the door from outside. Zhou Hao hurriedly got up and opened the door. It was his parents. As soon as they entered, Wang Shiyun changed into her slippers and said with a smile, "Little Hao, the medicinal effect of that rock you gave us last time is really extraordinary. The pain in your father's back has subsided a lot. Moreover, many people in the company I work in say that I'm 10 years younger." Zhou Hao knew that Wang Shiyun was talking about the life stone. That thing was a natural treasure that could allow one to subtly advance to the Grand Master level. Its effects were naturally excellent. "Mom, it's good that it's effective. Didn't I leave some medicinal herbs at home a few days ago? Those things are all relatively precious cultivation resources. If you have nothing to do, just use those to nourish your body," Zhou Hao said with a smile. Zhou Suiwo and Wang Shiyun looked at each other and smiled mysteriously. "All right, we'll do as you say, son. After dinner." As Johao was browsing his phone in his room, he heard his father's voice. "Honey, the few things that our son brought back are all just as valuable as the scarlet bloodvine and the rhino horn. You have to be careful. Don't let your company mess with them." "Don't worry. I've worked in the company for more than a decade, so how could I be scammed? The leader has already said he could use those materials to create a lot of high-grade medicinal pills. When our son eats them, he will definitely be able to break through to become a martial artist," Wang Shuyun said confidently. "That's good. By the way, did your leader tell you the exact time the pills will be ready?" Zhou Suiwo asked. Wang Shuyun shook her head. "No, I'll ask tomorrow. The process of making medicinal pills is very complicated. I think it will take at least a week." Hearing these words, Johao could not help but shake his head lightly. He was already at the master level and his combat strength had even reached the peak of the 9th grade supernatural level. The resources he had obtained from the wilderness area were useless to him. He originally wanted to let his parents consume them to increase their physical fitness, but he did not expect the two elders to consider him first. "Looks like I have to reveal my strength as soon as possible to reassure Dad and Mom," he thought to himself. Restraining his senses, Johao instantly made the surrounding voices disappear. Chapter 117, Ranked at the Bottom. He swiped his phone for a while and lay down to sleep. With his current strength, he would be fine even if he did not sleep for half a year, but he still maintained the habit of an ordinary person. The next day, after arriving at the virtual training room of the school, Johao saw that Su Ling was already sitting in the virtual cabin. Upon seeing this, he leaned closer and stretched out his hand. "What?" Su Ling looked up and asked. "Your cake was pretty good yesterday. Where's the one you brought for me today?" Johao smiled. Su Ling's jade-like face instantly flushed red. She glared at Johao. "I'm not your nanny. If you want to eat, cook it yourself." With that said, she added, "I did it casually yesterday. Consider it a reward." Johao was already used to Su Ling's sharp tongue, so he continued to smile indifferently. "What was the reward for?" Su Ling snorted and turned her head. "You're asking the obvious. I'm ignoring you." Johao leaned closer and almost smelled the delicate fragrance emitted from Su Ling's body. This delicate fragrance was naturally produced by her special physique, making one feel refreshed. "Tell me the details so that I can get another reward from you next time." Half of his body entered Su Ling's virtual cabin. Many students around them went crazy with jealousy when they saw this. Go, go, go. Hurry up and go back to your seat. Instructor Shen will be here soon." Su Ling pushed Johao out with a red face. As soon as she finished speaking, Johao heard Instructor Shen's unique footsteps outside the classroom. He hurriedly returned to his virtual cabin. The moment Instructor Shen appeared at the door, the other students also hurriedly entered the virtual cabin. Shenjing stood at the podium and swept his gaze around before starting to check attendance. The rules of the focused training class were very strict. Those who were late by 3 times would be directly disqualified. After checking attendance, he said, "The training intensity will continue to increase today. In addition, the training class has been established for almost a month. The day after tomorrow, the class will hold a true combat training assessment. The results will include the total amount of points you currently have. The combat training assessment itself will also take up a lot of points." After a pause, he said with a solemn expression, "If any of you are ranked at the bottom of this assessment and do not exceed the minimum requirements, you will be expelled from the class regardless of your total points." Swoosh. As soon as he said this, the expressions of all the students in the training class changed. After getting a taste of the cultivation resources of the training class, none of them wanted to leave. A student could not help but ask, "Instructor Shen, may I know if this combat assessment will be a one-on-one battle or a team battle?" Instructor Shen said indifferently, "Of course it's a one-on-one battle." Upon hearing this, most of the students heaved a sigh of relief. Many of them glanced at Zhou Hao from the corner of their eyes. Zhou Hao was supposed to be ranked at the bottom of the class, but because he relied on Su Ling and Zhang Yi, his total points was not bad and was even ranked in front. However, in this combat training assessment, without Su Ling's protection, Zhou Hao would undoubtedly have to rely on himself. In other words, Zhou Hao would definitely be ranked at the bottom of the class. Therefore, most of the students did not feel pressured. Instructor Shen also swept his gaze over Zhou Hao and sighed in his heart. In his opinion, Zhou Hao would definitely be disqualified this time. Once the latter was disqualified, there would be no hope for him and Su Ling to remain as a couple in the future. I hope it won't be too much of a blow to him. He retracted his gaze and thought to himself. It was very difficult for the relationship between a poor boy and a rich girl to have any results since ancient times. Furthermore, ever since the cataclysm, strength became the only thing people valued. On the top floor of the Su Medical Company building. "Chairman, Miss is here," the uniformed secretary said softly. Su Zhenqiu, who was handling some documents, hurriedly stood up and walked out with a smile. "Ling why did you come to the company after school today? Didn't you still have to undergo special training with Instructor Shen?" Su Zhenqiu walked in front of Su Ling. His voice was soft and gentle and contrasted with his dignified appearance. Su Ling walked into the chairman's office with a worried expression. Su Zhenqiu noticed his daughter's mood and hurriedly waved his hand to dismiss the female secretary, indicating that he did not want to be disturbed. "Ling what's wrong? Who bullied you? Tell Dad and I'll go straight to his door and beat him up to vent your anger," Su Zhenqiu hurriedly said. Su Ling shook her head. She sat on the sofa and looked at Su Zhenqiu. "Dad, our class is holding a true combat training assessment tomorrow." Su Zhenqiu was stunned for a moment before he immediately smiled. "That's a good thing. With your strength, you should be able to surpass those geniuses in Yanjing and get first place in the class. I'll celebrate for you personally when the time comes." "Dad." Su Ling bit her lip and hesitated. But our team's Zhou Hao is too weak. I'm afraid that he won't even be able to meet the minimum requirements this time. Therefore, I came here to ask for your help, Dad." Chapter 118, Stop Jinxing. Su Zhenqiu frowned subconsciously when he heard this. He had more or less heard of this student. Zhou Hao. After all, Zhou Hao was very close to his daughter, so it was impossible for him not to know. However, he had never interfered because he was afraid that his daughter would become rebellious. But now, it seemed that his daughter had fallen for him completely. He knew very well that no matter what difficulties his daughter encountered, she had never asked him for help. "Dad." Seeing that Su Zhenqiu did not say anything, Su Ling could not help but shout again. "Ling how do you want me to help your classmate?" Su Zhenqiu suppressed the annoyance in his heart and asked. Su Ling hesitated. "Dad, didn't your company develop a special medicinal pill to increase your cultivation level recently? I want to give that to Zhou Hao." Su Zhenqiu refused flatly. "No." Su Ling was stunned. She did not expect her father to refuse so decisively without any room for negotiation. "Dad, why?" Su Zhenqiu also realized that his tone was wrong and hurriedly explained, "Ling the side effects of that medicinal pill are too great. Although it can immediately help your classmate advance to a high-level martial artist, he will be stuck at this level for the rest of his life." Su Ling shook her head. "Dad, but that's not what you said last time." "Last time? Last time, it was because we didn't finish testing the side effects." Su Zhenqiu looked at Su Ling and couldn't help but say, "Ling I know you're being kind, but this kind of thing can't be rushed or forced. Even if you help your classmate this time and let him pass the combat assessment, what about next time? Can you help him forever? Without waiting for Su Ling to speak, he continued, now that you have the ice muscle body, you're destined to be extraordinary in the future. You should give up on those ordinary students. Su Ling was not stupid. On the contrary, she was extremely bright. When she heard this, how could she not know what her father meant? She stood up from the sofa and said expressionlessly, Dad, I understand. Continue with your work. As she spoke, she walked quickly to the door. Ling Su Zhenqiu shouted anxiously. Su Ling paused for a moment. Dad, Zhou Hao was the one who discovered and found the ice needle mushroom. If not for him, your daughter would have died in the mouth of the Blackman demon python. In addition, I'm not saying this on purpose to help him. I'm only stating the facts. If Zhou Hao is expelled from the training class this time, I will also leave the training class with him. With that, she walked out of the office without looking back. Su Zhenqiu looked at his daughter's back and smiled bitterly. He regretted saying those words just now. I will personally go and meet this Zhou Hao tomorrow. I want to see why my daughter is willing to do so much for him. The next morning, on the training grounds of Chu City High School, there was a dense crowd of people. All the Year 3 students and teachers were sitting in the audience seats, and there were many parents on the high platform. It was just like the previous combat assessment. The same combat assessment is being held at the same place. I wonder if there will be any accidents this time. Stop trying to jinx it. I still want to live for a few more years. Now that the wilderness area is almost cleaned up and there are only a few high-level demon warriors left, how could the foreign races invade our Chu City High School again? That's right. Don't scare yourself. Most of the Year 3 students were discussing in low voices, and the parents of the training class were also talking to each other. Director Su has really nurtured a good daughter. That's right. The ice muscle body. That's a special physique destined to be extraordinary. When Director Su becomes successful in the future, don't forget to support us. Director Su must have received a lot of invitations from the large factions in Yanjing City these days. Su Zhenqiu couldn't stop smiling as he listened to the surrounding parents praise him and his daughter. Soon, Instructor Shen walked up to the high platform. Su Zhenqiu hurriedly stood up and saluted. Zhenqiu, I remember you were quite unlucky back then. I didn't expect your daughter to turn out to be so lucky. Shen Jing chuckled. Su Zhenqiu smiled and touched his head. I must have transferred it to her. By the way, Instructor Shen, about my daughter. Shen Jing waved his hand and interrupted, Zhenqiu, if you trust me, then take my advice and don't be in a hurry to make your decision. Take your time and see how things go after a while. Su Zhenqiu immediately nodded. Of course I trust you, instructor. I'll leave my daughter in your care. Not long after, all the students of the training class arrived. The school started distributing the standard T3 armor. After Wang Ming, Li Ji, and the other students finished wearing their armor, their expressions became solemn. Their armor was T3, meaning that in this combat assessment, they were at least going to face demon warriors. Indeed, Instructor Shen's voice sounded from the high platform. In this combat assessment, the minimum requirement is to kill 2 low-level demon warriors. As soon as he finished speaking, the audience immediately went into an uproar. Chapter 119, You're really hopeless. What? Killed 2 low-level demon warriors? Did I hear wrong? Demon warriors, that's something only martial artists can deal with. The focused training class was only established for less than a month, yet it's already so powerful. Last time, when they entered the wilderness, they worked together to kill the demon warriors. But this time, they need to do it on their own. According to the standard of the city's martial artist assessment, one can directly register as a martial artist as long as they can kill 2 low-level demon warriors by themselves. Apparently, there are no other requirements to register as a martial artist. Does this training class require everyone to become martial artists? The other year 3 students were all shocked. Line up in rows of 5. Gather quickly. Instructor Shen shouted. The originally dispersed students of the training class quickly gathered into a 5-person row. Clang. Clang. Soon, iron shelves were sent to the training grounds. As the black cloth was lifted, low-level demon warriors with hideous expressions appeared in front of everyone. Single-horned boar. White wolf. Red crown python. In the training team, many students looked at these demon warriors with bitter expressions. They originally thought that they would be facing the weakest warrior-level demon beasts, but they did not expect that most of them were actually comparable to intermediate-level demon beasts. Clearly, Instructor Shen was too confident in them. Let the assessment begin. With a whistle, the 5 people standing at the front stepped forward. Boom. 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 The iron shelves opened, and low-level demon warriors rushed out crazily. Their speed was shocking. At the back of the group, Zhou Hao looked at the cold Su Ling and could not help but whisper, "Hey, Su Ling, have you been keeping a straight face these past 2 days because you're on your period?" Su Ling did not say a word. Zhou Hao pursed his lips. "Are you mute?" Su Ling turned her face around and frowned. "Zhou Hao, don't you feel any pressure at all in this combat assessment?" Hee, so you were worried that I wouldn't pass the assessment? I didn't know you cared about me that much." Zhou Hao immediately laughed. Su Ling was speechless and said angrily, "Why are you still thinking about such nonsense at a time like this?" Zhou Hao looked at Su Ling and clicked his tongue. "You are indeed different with your special physique. You even look good when you're angry. You're really hopeless." Su Ling shook her head and ignored Zhou Hao. In any case, she had already decided to leave the training class with Zhou Hao. Bang! 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 At this moment, intense fighting sounded from the 5 separate training grounds. The students soon faced the white wolf, the single-horned boar, and the other demon beasts that were comparable to intermediate-level demon warriors. If this was back then, the students would definitely panic. However, after a month of virtual combat training, their combat strength had undergone a fundamental change. After a short period of adaptation, they all erupted with combat strength that far exceeded their cultivation level. Beautiful. Too impressive. The focused training class is indeed worthy of being the city's hope. Instructor Shen is indeed worthy of his reputation. In less than a month, he has transformed these students. Resources are still very important. These students are basically all at the 3rd level of blood essence, and some of them have even reached the level of a martial artist. Some of the parents on the high platform smiled at each other. The students of the other classes were completely stunned. They did not expect the training class to change them so drastically. It had to be known that more than a month ago, those focused training class students were no different from the students from other classes in strength. In fact, some of the students in the focused training class were actually weaker. But now, the students from the focused training class are already capable of killing low-level demon warriors. I wonder if the training class is still recruiting. Definitely. Moreover, it's said that some students will be disqualified from the combat assessment this time. When the time comes, they will definitely recruit more. What are the requirements for entering the training class? I don't know. In any case, I have to sign up this time. No matter how difficult it is, I have to enter the training class. Many students were inspired. Time passed slowly. Teams of students from the training class went forward one after another to fight the demon warriors. The ones with the best results were Yuan Chang, Yun Yan, and the Yanjing geniuses. Each of them had killed 10 demon warriors, reaching the upper limit of the combat assessment. As for Wang Ming, Li Ji, and the other outstanding students who had broken through to become martial artists, their results were also not bad as they had each killed 6 demon warriors. Most of the remaining third-level Blood Essence students performed well as well. They had killed at least 3 demon warriors. All of them had exceeded the minimum requirements set by Instructor Shen. Soon, it was Zhou Hao and Su Ling's turn. Countless students and parents looked over, their gazes focused on Su Ling. Yuan Chen, Yun Yan, and the other Yanjing geniuses took less than half a minute to kill 10 demon warriors. I wonder how long Su Ling will take. It must be even shorter. After all, Su Ling is already a master-level expert. Not necessarily. Su Ling has only broken through to the master level for a short period of time. I don't think she has fully adapted to her strength yet. Some parents discussed among themselves. The students of the other classes, especially the boys, were stunned the moment they saw Su Ling. Chapter 120, Shock Everyone. Damn, is that Su Ling? How beautiful. Did she undergo plastic surgery? Ignorant fool. Now that Su Ling has activated her ice muscle body, her skin, body, and aura will naturally be different. I can't take it anymore. I feel like I've fallen in love with her. The boys widened their eyes and wished they could rush up to see Su Ling up close. The girls were all envious. Zhou Hao and the others walked forward. All the best. Zhang Yi raised his fist. Let's work hard together. Zhou Hao smiled. On the high platform, Instructor Shen looked back and forth between Zhou Hao, Zhang Yi, and the others, wondering who the hidden genius of the school was. Although Su Ling's sudden transformation had made him less excited about the whole matter, he was still on the lookout for that peerless genius. Begin. Boom. Crack. With a whistle, the iron doors opened one after another. Zhou Hao was facing the red crown red python. He saw that the speed of this red crown python far surpassed the other 4 low-level demon warriors. It rushed over in less than 10 seconds after covering a distance of hundreds of meters. Haha, this Zhou Hao is doomed. I remember that in the previous combat assessment, Zhou Hao was lucky enough to kill a mutated beast and obtained the opportunity to enter the training class. But this time, he actually encountered the red crown python. I've said it before. No matter how lucky you are, there will be a day when you run out of luck. I bet he can't last more than 10 seconds. You think too highly of him. He'll last 3 seconds at most. Many Year 3 students laughed and discussed. They were naturally not unfamiliar with Zhou Hao. After all, he was the only one who had relied on luck to enter the training class. Some of the other students who had passed the training class assessment also sneered secretly. On the high platform, most of the parents' gazes were focused on Su Ling, but Su Zhenqiu was staring at Zhou Hao. Pu. The red crown python pounced like a bolt of lightning. Zhou Hao pretended to be clumsy as he dodged sideways, his body almost brushing past the red crown python's scale armor. After the red crown python missed, its tail immediately swept towards Zhou Hao. Zhou Hao placed the saber in front of him and took a step forward. Bang! The red crown python's tail was powerful, directly blasting Zhou Hao back. However, the angle at which Zhou Hao was standing happened to cause the red crown python's tail to hit its own head. Chi! Zhou Hao raised his saber with both hands and slashed. The red crown python's head was sliced in half by the saber like tofu. What? Su Zhenqiu, who was staring at Zhou Hao, suddenly stood up. The other parents were stunned when they saw Su Zhenqiu's action. However, they soon heard an uproar that sounded like a tsunami. The Year 3 students in the spectator stands exclaimed. Instructor Shen, who was originally watching Su Ling's battle, also noticed the abnormality. He swept his gaze around and could not help but be stunned. This Zhou Hao was the first to kill a demon warrior. Boom! Crack! The second iron cage opened, and the single-horned boar rushed towards Zhou Hao. Instructor Shen, many parents, Su Zhenqiu, and the others stared at Zhou Hao this time. Swoosh! Zhou Hao's body was like a spring. At the instant the single horned boar rushed up, he bounced back slightly and then turned to the side to draw his saber. Bang! The single horned boar's head fell, but its body still maintained its forward momentum. Waves of exclamations sounded from the audience again. Zhou Hao's clean killing of the single horned boar had truly exceeded their expectations. The killing of the red crown python just now could still be considered an occurrence of luck. However, considering that this single horned boar was not a fool, everyone was able to recognize the combat strength Zhou Hao displayed. On the high platform, Su Zhenqiu could not help but exclaim, this Zhou Hao's strength. Shen Jing stretched out his hand and interrupted, "Don't make a sound. Keep watching." The other parents who wanted to speak immediately shut their mouths. Su Zhenqiu also suppressed his surprise and continued to watch. Next were the white wolves and the snow leopard. However, every warrior-level demon beast was quickly killed by Zhou Hao. The entire process did not take more than 5 seconds. It took Zhou Hao less than 2 minutes to kill the 10 demon warriors. Such a speed of killing was comparable to that of Yuan Cheng, Yun Yan, and the other Yanjing geniuses. When he retreated from the real battlefield, the entire training ground was silent.